a shelter, an abri.
Look at these Pickelhaubes.
After the Franco-Prussian War and the less than glorious defeat for the French, seeing them lose all their old forts in Alsace-Lorraine to the Prussians, who now moved the Kaiser's drinks cabinet quite a lot closer to Paris, leaving the disgruntled French to build new forts, and after a costly defeat at that. However, with neighbors like these, well, General Sieur de Rivière's began constructing a new line of forts here to protect Reims, and one of the parts he designed of the series was a Fort de la Pompelle. It was constructed between 1880 and 1883 to complete the Reims defensive ring. It was one of the smaller supporting forts covering the flanks of the larger forts. It covered about 2.3 hectares with a dry moat and 2 level caponniers delivering flanking fire. And that is absolutely stunning, by the way. It was armed with 6 155 de Bonge 1881 guns and 4 138mm cannons and 5 revolving cannons for flank defenses, in addition to small arms and the various mitrailleurs here and there. The garrison comprised of 1 artillery company of about 277 men. In 1913, it was demilitarized, as it was constructed in stone and long obsolete. Also, it had not been reinforced with special cement as some other forts. But still, the Germans were coming, so reoccupied quickly in 1914, just in time for the Germans to come around and capture it. It was surrendered without a fight, for the first and last time. It was then, in a very fierce battle, recaptured by the French on September 24, after the First Battle of the Marne. Thereafter, the Fort de la Pompelle remained a key point in the defenses of Reims, and it suffered heavily from numerous constant year-long German attacks, infantry assault, heavy bombardment, gas attacks, mines, and even assault by tanks at the end. All failed to break this small fort's resistance. The Germans threw everything they had at this little place, and it still stood. Well, parts of it still stands anyway. The defensive effort was shared amongst half of the French forces, with about 180 different regiments having at one point or another served here. These forces included 2 special Russian brigades sent by Tsar Nicholas II in 1916, which in January 1917 successfully defended this fort against a German gas attack. These Russians we will speak of more shortly, but as they're Russians, you can imagine it did not end well. However, the fort remained in French hands throughout the war until the Germans left on 5 October 1918, leaving it a bombed-out ruin, with hundreds of soldiers buried in the ruins. It was eventually given to a small group of volunteers who turned it into a nice museum after fixing the leaky roof, which is good because they have an amazing collection here, and for one, the largest collection of Pickelhaube in the world. So yes, this is the episode where I will tell you what all the various pickles means.
What is that? Is that a cement dome up there?
Yeah, looks like it.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that may be German. That definitely looks like German.
Well, here we are, about to enter the Fort of La Pompelle, which had quite a checkered history. It's an old-fashioned fort, never modernized. It was built by Sieur de Rivière as part of the ring around Reims. And then as World War I became more evident, they had to decide which of the forts they were going to modernize because of the crisis of the torpedo shell. And they decided to abandon most of the forts around Reims, if not all of them. They never got modernized. In fact, they were disarmed, basically just left abandoned. That's why this fort has still caponniers instead of the embrasures in the corners to fire along and defend the ditches. So it was abandoned, and The Germans captured it. The French had to recapture it. And we'll continue that story very shortly.
Yeah, because it sounds like if it was abandoned and somebody had to capture it, it shouldn't have resulted in. The ditch walls are no longer exactly straight, are they? I mean, some things.
No, the Contrescarpe wall is there, right?
It is.
Most
that
of
is
the
there.
Contrescarpe is there, but the escarpe has disappeared.
It looks like a hill on a beach.
Bombardment, yeah. It looks like an old World War I cannon that's been put on pneumatic tyres. Don't recognise it at all. And I should do. If it was French, I'd recognise. Cut off. Oh no, is that camouflage? It's had a new barrel stuck on it.
Yeah, the barrel there looks completely wrong.
Yeah. This is a weirdie.
You know, it
I
looks.
reckon that's Austro-Hungarian.
Yeah, I was thinking. I remember. I recognise that shield from somewhere.
You wouldn't have the casermo just open like that.
Do you think that was a full caponnier? You don't think that was just a little bunker building right there?
This is the
little
gorge, the caponnier in the gorge. And you've got the wall of the fort. Look what's left of it, which would go over there. And this would be the inside of the fort. This has been blown away.
Yeah, this was.
And they've even got the steel shutters on the windows, which is interesting. But this this has been extremely heavily bombarded.
It has.
And I think they've put walls of sandbags up there. Look.
Yeah, that's sandbags right there.
Yeah, and they've got them up on the right as well, above the ruins. Look of the. That would be the Rue du Rempart.
Interesting.
The Gorge. Little bits of the Contrescarpe left here. Not much. This place has been hammered. Part of the original wall. They would not be. Someone has rebuilt that.
But you said this was not reinforced.
It was never reinforced. It was abandoned.
So there's no part of the reinforcement. So that's not what that is.
It's part of the reconstruction, isn't it?
I don't.
There was just a big hole in the wall here, and they just built another one. And they put sandbags over the top to. I mean, come on. You can't see the Germans coming in here and capturing the fort and bringing in these huge slabs of stone. Yes.
And that sandbags up there, they actually look like that could have been an original. The sandbags all around. That could have been a somewhat original at the time.
Well, there's the sandbags filled with concrete, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
So.
Well, it takes a bit of work to keep a fort together, I guess.
The whole facade has been smashed away.
I see is that weatherproofing tar?
The lead.
The lead.
Lead sheeting, isn't it?
Lead sheeting.
Well, they'd have had that originally over the fort, over the masonry. So that could be original lead. Well, the flat pieces. Can you see the vertical bits have been added later? But the flat pieces sticking out, those may be the original lead. Over the masonry. But unless you knew what a fort was supposed to look like, you would have no idea what all this is.
I mean, you know it's original lead because there's no way in God's green earth they're going to put lead sheeting on today to restore it. The environmentalists would have a small hemorrhage.
Yeah. Oh, that's down into the Caponnier.
It didn't even have a tunnel entrance. It just came
straight out of the little courtyard. It's triangular courtyard.
Wow.
It's a very.
That would be a hell of a run.
No, the thing is, this was a what should we say, a second-class fort, even when it was new, right? It's not that big. It's not that well fortified. It's not. I mean, as you can see, it's relatively primitive compared with, Douaumont or Vaux or any of the others around Verdun. I don't know if those are the original shutters too close. Because the idea is that the Germans being that side, the shells come over and explode in the courtyard. They don't hit the windows.
Yeah.
So all you need is the blinds missing from the top there.
Yeah.
You close the blinds and the shell fragments hit the blinds.
Yeah.
That's not meant to take shell fire.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at. I think they might have been original. That's a bit of damage on there.
It's shell fragments hit that, yeah.
Yeah. And a bit of gouges in it.
And there would be a pit underneath there,
Yeah.
so you couldn't climb across. And then behind the drawbridge, in most forts, there was another bridge which either flipped up against the wall or disappeared sideways, exposing another pit inside. So if you smashed through the drawbridge when it was in the up position, you still fell down the big hole behind it. It's very cunning.
So what you'd actually lay the fort, you'd lay the fort up sideways against the wall of the fort.
Either the inner bridge would flip up against the wall, like it did in Regret.
You know, I just saw that a couple of days ago in Fort Ulrich. Because I was looking for if this was a drawbridge or I couldn't. The mechanism was kind of there, but there was hooks on the side of the wall, so sideways up.
Yeah. And of course, when after the First World War, they wanted to take vehicles into the fort, so they bridged over all these pits, the traps. They didn't need them as traps. Mostly Serre de Rivière forts, they go sideways into the, underneath the wall.
A curved round, yeah.
And there's a pit underneath. Okay. So they abandoned their French forts around Reims.
So what am I looking at with these cement blocks here? I'm kind of confused. These.
Wait a minute. These are the bases of. Wait a minute. It looks like they reinforced it. Didn't say when. They started using cement to reinforce it. I would imagine that these are. They're tremendous.
It must have
I would
been.
say these are barriers.
Yeah,
You put
but that
barrier
must have been
rails.
pre-World War One.
Pre-World War One.
I thought.
Before they decided to abandon it, I think.
Okay. So they started with a plan,
I've never seen a fort built like this. None of them we've been to have been anything.
and they're also not the same size or height or construction in any which way.
Well, even the Fort de Vaux, which is a quarter of the size of Douarnenez, which itself is not a monster, it's a large fort. Even the Fort de Vaux is different to this. Mind you, that was modified. This is a water pump. It's been smashed. Oh, look at this.
Hang on for a minute.
It's not just that the faces of the stones have been left rough, but the edges of them, it looks like, like a farm wall that's been stuck together with different bits of stone, doesn't it? They're not squared off.
Was this constructed in a hurry, or there was no emergency at that time?
I assume that it was, as it was a second-class fort, they didn't spend the time and effort on it that they did on a tunnel was dug underneath.
It wasn't a counter tunnel, was it?
No, it's a tunnel to get inside the fort while the Germans were bombarding it.
I thought we are inside the fort.
It was 300 meters long, and it went down to 12 meters deep. That's about 40. Another big hole through the roof.
The roof, if it wasn't reinforced at all, it wouldn't take, you wouldn't need a 400 millimeter shell to go through here.
17 or 19 centimeter would go through
Yeah.
this very easily.
There was no usage of this for World War II.
No, that would be completely useless.
Under protection of that anyway.
That is a huge hole in the roof there, isn't it?
Oh, here too, yeah.
And a very rough stone. That is amazing. Right, well, many people think it very strange that the French went to war in red trousers, scarlet trousers, and red capes, which made them sitting ducks for German riflemen and machine gunners. It's a bit unfair to criticize the French because they really had no choice. Just before the First World War, they had decided to introduce a camouflage uniform. One of the first armies to introduce camouflage, in fact, probably the first one, was the British Army in India. They went out there in white uniforms, which very soon, after a couple of hours of march, became covered in dust. And the Hindi word for dust is khaki. And so that's where the colour khaki comes from for uniforms. And when they came back to their bases covered in dust, the officers said, that's a great colour to make us far less conspicuous when people are shooting at us from the hillsides. So before World War I broke out, the French army was experimenting with different colours for their camouflage uniforms. And they came up with one colour which suited them down to the ground, and all the high command agreed on it. And just as they were about to order it into production, someone said, there's only one problem, it's virtually the same colour as the German army is using, which was a bit of a shock, which they should have foreseen, but they didn't. And then they were forced to cancel the camouflage plan. So when they decided a while later to replace the red trousers and the red capes with something a bit less conspicuous, they came up with the horizon blue, the blue horizon. But they intended to make it a slightly different color, more of a brownish color. But they lacked the red. Funny enough, they had the red trousers to start with, but then when the war broke out, they lacked the red dyes to add into the uniform. Because the Germans controlled the production of red dyes. There was a battle of the dyes of the colors from about 1912, 1914 onwards. And the Germans controlled the manufacture of the red dyes.
Yes, that was IG Farben.
Yeah, IG Farben. So the uniform came out this very strange light blue, the horizon blue, which made them still conspicuous, a bit less so. But then, of course, they said, well, it's not too bad. When we all go over the top at dawn to attack, then we're sky blue against the sky, which really didn't turn up that well.
No.
You'd want to attack, what shall we say, with the sun behind your backs, so the Germans in their trenches would be blinded by the rising sun. But that would silhouette you as perfect targets anyway, so...
Yeah, right.
That's a 120 de Banche. They had them on the roof. But can you see how exposed they were to overhead fire?
Yes. And what we really love this is with the skylight, and one thing we haven't seen in other forts like this is here it appears that for the skylight they tiled it with reflective tile just like you would see in the National Line forts.
We haven't seen this before.
There, we have not. This would reflect light.
To send light into the offices inside the block.
Exactly.
The reflective tiles and the big hole in the roof. I would have thought that was being cruel to say this is pretty rough stonework, that the probably fragments of shell had impacted against it, but the stones are not rectangular.
No.
I've never seen it.
And the mortar is also very. Of course, here you have your hewn stone.
Yeah. For
which is
a chimney, a tunnel.
Yeah. Here was, well, actually this, no, you know what? If you look at this, I think this was a patch of the time, not for the, it looks like it's been patched up over the skylight here, but they did it right, they did it original. Yeah. Every one of these galleries has been punctured by shells and then repaired all the way down the hallway.
This has been remade.
I mean, it does look original, doesn't it? I don't see anything on the walls that would. And yeah, since there's a patch up there, then it is the original ones. Yeah, since it was
hammered again at the last post at his grave, and he wore a Pickelhaube.
Really?
Red jacket and a Pickelhaube. Yeah, and look, they called it. Is it a medium work, number 225, the German? It's German rifle. I don't know how many rounds a minute you could fire out of a 77. Oh, this is still a 75. thought it was the German one.
How does the number 11 of the production line survive and end up here?
Well, they made 6,500 of them.
Yeah,
This is number 11.
yeah, well, you know, it's only the first couple of ones that are the ones everyone would be looking for.
Oh,
It's mortile.
yes.
This is so,
This is unique.
yeah. And it took a bit of damage from some shrapnel.
Even in regret, they didn't have tiles like this, did they?
Well, it was so destroyed, it's hard, they could have had. Any idea how that got here?
Constructed in 1916 by the factories in Petrograd, St. Petersburg. It could only fire 12 rounds a minute. As a 76.2 the Russian standard, because its recoil cylinder wasn't very strong, wasn't as strong as the French one. The French could fire 20 rounds a minute, this could fire 12.
Like,
So
and this is a bigger recoil cylinder than on the French gun, isn't it? Well, they have 2 on that, on the 75, but this is a fairly large.
quite a large recoil cylinder.
It is.
Depends how efficient it is.
Well, apparently not that efficient.
No.
It's just
What
because,
is the breach mechanism?
well, I mean, you know,
It's an interrupted thread breach. That is what slows it down, more than the recoil.
what?
Opening and closing the breech. The French gun opened automatically on recoil and ejected.
Yeah.
This thing, you had to open it and eject the shell with the handle, put it aside and you eject. Then you had to push the shell in and then shut it. Whereas the French, you throw it in and your hand shuts it. You throw the shell in and above is the lever to shut.
Yeah.
It's as quick as that. I don't know why it's here. It's not captured.
It's not.
Remember I told you there were Russian troops here. They brought this with them.
So now that we're standing here at a Russian gun by Verdun, what did it do here? There's more to this story than just a gun.
Yes, this is a Pickelhaube 76.2 millimeter field gun, produced in Petrograd, now St. Petersburg, 1916. And we originally thought it may have been captured by the Germans on the Eastern Front and brought here. But then I remembered that there was a unit of Russian troops here, stationed here, sent by Tsar Nicholas to support his French allies. And unfortunately they ended very badly, because with the revolution in 1917, most of the soldiers wanted to go back home because their country was in turmoil, or to join in the political struggles that were going on there. And the French didn't like the idea of sending them back. And for a long time, history told us nothing about what happened to them. They were there one moment and the next minute they weren't. And finally the story has leaked out that the French brought up their 75mm field guns, surrounded the camp of the recalcitrant, semi-mutinous Russians, and bombarded them. Caused terrible casualties, and basically that was the end of the Russian contingent here in France, which is a very sad end, really.
It's never fun.
Sad end. So they sent them out with all black powder rifles.
No
They
wonder,
were lucky to have a rifle each man, I suppose.
no wonder they wanted to go home.
Yeah. The French had to supply them with their Berthier Model 15. Look, the Russian two-headed eagle on a French helmet, painted brown. That is the medal. I have one in my collection, given to one of my ancestors who was in the Royal Navy. That is the medal there on the left for zeal. I can't remember the Russian name for it. My long-lost ancestor turned up a humble stoker, putting the coal in the boilers on HMS Jupiter, an old pre-dreadnought battleship. And she turned up at Arkhangelsk, I think from memory, broke through the ice in the middle of the winter using her ram bow, and anchored in the harbour as a guard ship. And the Russians there were surprised to see her come at that time of year when the port was normally ice-locked. And they were very glad to have her as a guard ship against predatory German naval units. And every man on board got one of these little medals, the Fuzil medal with the Tsar's head on it. Even my humble ancestor who was just a stoker in the Royal Naval Reserve.
The Brigade Specials Russe were two Russian infantry brigades sent by the Tsar to fight alongside the French on the Western Front during World War I. Their story is obviously unique and obviously tragic. It is full of heroics, disillusionment, political upheaval, and death. The 1st and 3rd Brigades went with 2 regiments in each, commanded by Russian officers, but logistically supported by the French, some 9,000 men in all, and a goat, and probably a bear. They arrived in April 1916, and they fought with distinction in Champagne region, here at Fort Pompelle, and Chemin-des-Dames, where we have also been, and they suffered heavy casualties in the Nivelle offensive in 1917, especially at Concy, where they lost hundreds in a completely futile attack, but that's a different story. And then their service in France changed as things back in Russia boiled to a point with the February Revolution. Morale in the Russian brigades declined, obviously, news from home, the collapse of the monarchy, the rise of the Bolsheviks, political radicalization, and a lot of soldiers that refused to fight as they wanted to return to Russia. However, many other soldiers refused to return to Russia or to fight for the collapsing regime, or the new one. Therefore, of course, the Russian brigades were withdrawn from the front, and they were concentrated in a place called Camp de la Courtine in central France. There the splits began. The provincial government loyalists, the ones pro-Kerensky, and the Bolshevik sympathizers. Now, mutiny broke out in September 1917. Armed Bolshevik elements seized part of the camp. French forces, with the help of the loyal Russian troops, suppressed the rebellion, as Roger just told us, with artillery shelling. Dozens were killed, thousands imprisoned. 2,000 plus were deported to labor camps or held in military prisons. The way that really breaks down is, after the battle, loyal Russian troops. They formed the Russian Legion and continued fighting under French command. Mutineers, like the Bolshevik sympathizers, they were disarmed. Some of them were deported to North Africa or interned in camps. And those who survived the war would later join the French Foreign Legion or stay in France post-war.
There's a coat of arms on it. Yes.
Very small little stove.
Yeah. Ah, this is the 77.
This is probably the nicest display because it actually looks real.
The seats for the crew, although the cushions have disappeared from this. Here we have an extremely rare piece. It's the light Hotchkiss. The heavy Hotchkiss model 1914 was much bigger to be mounted on a tripod. This little beast could be mounted in a tank, it could be mounted on an aircraft. Roland Garros used one to bring down the very first German plane lost in air-to-air combat, firing against armor plates mounted to his propeller, a very silly arrangement which caused the engine to break down and he was captured. Now, this is the baby Hotchkiss and it feeds from the right. The heavy Hotchkiss feeds from the left. It came in various calibers. There was a 303 version for the British cavalry. This may be a French version, 8mm Lebel, I suspect. Maybe an aircraft version. Okay, the stock is mounted on it. It's also known in America as the infamous daylight gun. During the raid by Pancho Villa on Columbus, New Mexico, which got him a very bad reputation and led Pershing to mount his expedition to chase Pancho Villa and his so-called bandits, freedom fighters. There was a detachment of the American Army with 4 of these light Hotchkisses, which they had bought just before the war. I think it's a model 1906 from memory. 1908, there we go. I was nearly right. So, the Mexicans attacked by night. The 4 American machine guns were brought into action, but because there's a slightly complex method of inserting the ammunition slit, clip, from the right-hand side, upside down, compared with the other Hotchkiss machine gun. The Americans took a bit of time to get used to loading and firing their Hotchkisses. In the morning, when the Mexicans had left, the town was trashed, and Pancho Villa's men got the blame. The reality was that the American machine gunners had fired several thousand rounds all night into the town built of wood. So it was the American machine gunners that had trashed the town. The Mexicans got the blame. But a journalist turned up and he interviewed one of the machine gun crew, and he said, well, how did your machine guns work? Never mind about driving up Pancho Villa and destroying the town. How did they work? And the guy said, well, we had a slight spot of trouble in the dark because we were unaccustomed and untrained. First time we ever went into action, we had a bit of trouble getting them into action. So, being a journalist, the next morning the story appeared in the guy's newspaper saying, the infamous daylight gun. We hope that in future our enemies will attack us by day because our machine guns do not work at night. Well, if you saw what they'd done to the town, it was patently incorrect. They destroyed it.
That's what American soldiers usually do when they show up in places.
They blow everything to pieces. So, in fact, the gun got a bad reputation with the public because of this, and it was dropped, like the Lewis. And they went and made the Browning potato digger instead, which was a disaster because this is a brilliant gun. It was used by the British cavalry, it was used in British tanks, the light Hotchkiss. It worked extremely well.
That's different.
You know what that is, don't you?
Well, I would say it's a firing port, but...
No. It's where they would have the glass into the magazine.
Of course, this is the magazine. Of course,
this is the magazine, and
yes.
passes by.
It just looks so damn elaborate from this angle. I'm used to seeing it all dilapidated from the other side. Yeah.
And hanging on the doors would be the wooden clogs. So when you turned up in your hobnail boots, you would have to change into the clogs hanging on the door before you walked in here.
Oh yeah. So this is the magazine.
There's more. And behind you. Oh,
this must be the largest collection of Pickelhaube in the world. I can't see the fort for helmets.
Over there, a huge collection of PMMs. Oh my God.
Look at these Pickelhaubes.
the Prussian cuirassier, heavy cavalry officer. My God, I've never seen anything like that.
So it's the largest collection of Pickelhaube.
Oh, I think so, yes. People have 3 or 4 or a dozen, but... Alright, they're not all Pickelhaubes.
No, they're actually not. There's
cavalry, look, the fur,
and
here, another fur cavalry one. Yeah, the cavalry seem to like fur. You've got the flat top.
This is where you really need to start studying the occasion, the reasons, the decoration, the who wore what and why and when.
Well, you'd have to know all the heraldic symbols of all the German states.
Yes.
Württemberg, Bavaria, Hesse.
Hussars.
The Death's Head Hussars.
The Death's Head Hussars. Mackinson. My favorite. I
want to do a documentary on Mackinson one day. Because he's just... I was wondering that if I wonder if that is instructor, maybe.
Cavalry. The flat hats are usually cavalry, aren't they?
All right, the Pickelhaube. It was invented in 1942 by King Friedrich Wilhelm of Prussia. It was inspired somewhat by similar spiked helmets worn by the Russian cuirassiers or the French dragoons. It was originally adopted for the Prussian military use, however from 1850 it became standard across the German states and later Imperial Germany. The spike was more in order for people to be recognizable on parade grounds and battlefields, and therefore different symbols, depending on what unit you belonged to, were on top of the helmet. In the front there was a plate, metallic plate or brass, Mostly it was the Prussian eagle, Bavarian lion, depending on units and countries. This spike was not an implement of war to headbutt your enemies in the stomach. It could, however, somewhat deflect downward blows from sabers, although that was somewhat minor. It also did offer little protection against firearms and shrapnel, especially in the early days of World War I. So let's start with the basic line infantrymen. The foot soldiers were issued the M1895 Pickelhaube in its latest evolution. That was the final pre-1914 evolution, whereafter they became metal. It was manufactured from boiled leather, lacquered black, providing fittings made of brass or German silver, depending on the regiment. The protection was limited and led to the eventual replacement by steel helmets at the latest 1916. However, to reduce the reflection of the brass and silver fittings, all ranks were issued with the cloth helmet cover in 1892, with the regimental number in red on the front. In 1914, the color of the number was changed to dark green, and in 1915 removed. Now this with the rounded ball on top makes a little sense. In 1867, the cruciform spike base was squared front visor that was worn on several helmets, and the Kugelhelm. They were changed to a rounded spike base and a rounded front visor, and several more modifications. That resulted in the model 1871. The helmet was very tall, still, almost 38 centimeters, but now had features such as the rounded Kugel for the artillery, and a brass rear spine, curved, mounted troops, brass chin scales for the field artillery, and a flat brass chin scale for the foot troops, or the foot artillery as well. The Rappen, which is the front plate, for all contingents, were now secured to the helmet shell with screw posts, and the guard artillery wore a guard pattern eagle Rappen front plate, while all the other contingents wore their state Rappen in quilt. And then the distinctive steel helmets of the Prussian Cuirassiers and the Saxon Schwerereiters first appeared in 1443, replacing the tall leather helmet that was worn at that time there. The M1843 metal helmet, a helmet made from polished steel, was large and heavy, with a pronounced brim over the forehead and a distinctive lobster tail neck guard, both of which served to protect the wearer from sword blows. The helmets were made from polished steel with brass fittings. An alloy that made combined of copper or zinc was also used, called tombak, with German silver fittings like the leather Pickelhaube. And then there was the Lancers, Chapka, which is the distinguished square top, first appeared in 1808 when Prussian introduced the Ulanen or the Lancers regiments to emulate the Polish Lancers, as did many other nations. The M1843 Chapka was a tall helmet with a square top which was secured with a gilt chin scales. The neck of the upper flat portion of the Chapka, called a mortarboard by the English collectors, was permanently covered with a colored cloth, a Paradenrabatten. What it was called. The Paradenrabatten colors were specific to each regiment, but were trimmed in white for Mannschaften, and silver bullion for the officers. The Fangschnur, the securing cord, were attached to the top with a Chapka for a toggle for the Mannschaften, and a hook for officers and private purchase. As you begin to see, the symbols have something to do with identifying what the various units are tasked to do. I'm going to leave it at the basics for now, because as you can tell, there are over 400 different types and individual Pickelhaube, all with different purposes for different regiments from different regions, and so forth. And if you really, really insist, and somebody better start a GoFundMe, I will go back to the museum, and we will go over every single one of them with an expert, if you insist. Meanwhile, back to Roger.
No, the King's Bodyguard of the Kingdom of Prussia with an eagle on.
You know, I'm glad when I was a bodyguard I didn't have to wear a helmet like this doing it.
Certainly make a nasty wound butting somebody in the head, couldn't you?
I'll probably come home with a nasty headache every day.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining.
I hope this place is well guarded, because there are people who would pay a fortune to That's the Caponia guarding the entrance behind the man, and there's the entrance to the right, what's left of it. Well, they've reconstructed the whole monumental archway.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is this one of the forward gun pits? Because there's no more fort. Right?
These are the gun emplacements. We'll have 4 up there for 155s. Like the one we saw with the Chingulion, remember?
Yes.
In that village.
So there was a little stone there, a little stone, what was that? Is that there's not the dividing wall.
And there was a powder magazine, there was, on the left, and that's gone.
It's not in there?
The destruction here is very heavy, like catastrophic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then how the hell do you defend a place like this when the Germans attack in 1918?
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, well, are there any rules about... That's what's left of the powder magazine behind the memorial stone here. That seems to have collapsed from impact on the side.
This place is wow. But as I said, how the hell do you man the ramparts here to fight back?
I guess you crawl up on them and then you dig holes. You dig far. I mean, how else? You get up there and then you dig. Yeah. So they're still finding bodies here. What, 2014?
Yeah. Was this place excavated down a slightly lower level, or did they just build up all this earth?
Well, I don't see any. I don't see any tunnels anywhere. Oh, a little firing position here in the wall.
In the corner. Another gun position up there. There's another one there. But these are all open air.
I mean, there are only open air positions here. Yeah. Right? There's no
mortars hidden in, hidden down deep in the masonry, like in Troyon.
Yeah.
This is the fort in its first primitive condition. That never.
But this is an interesting. I'm thinking these must have been part of. Do you think these are part of a repair and this was the original?
Yeah, yeah.
Or is that just because that's a corner?
This is a corner. What have they done with the other corners?
Complete repair.
I saw one of your colleagues. Do you know?
Yep.
You know why the stones are so rough?
Yes.
Because the other forts were built in 4 years, and this one was built in 2. They didn't make the squared courses like in Tourmont, Regret. All the forts around were done. These are very rough, misshapen stones. All right, they go together, but they're not perfectly aligned like the other forts. They must have had trouble making the arches when you had stones which are all of different sizes. It's okay. Now
2 years.
Now I understand.
So they weren't. Why were they in a hurry in 1885? There was no war pending in 1880s.
Well, yes, there was, because
Was there?
they wanted back Alsace and the Moselle, and they made that quite clear. So the Germans knew that another war was inevitable.
Okay. Oh, great. New sound effect.
I don't want to
That little. Oh yes. I will say it looks in better shape from the inside than from the outside.
Yes, that's true.
Ooh, now we're talking.
People were dark.
No, well, they were 40 millimeter to stop the Navy and the Field Army stealing them. They had 37s, and the Germans had 37 Hotchkisses. The 40 millimeter is specifically for the fortress, and then on the testing ground, they wanted to know the best rifling to cover the whole ditch. Different barrels, and they thought we'd keep all 5. That's logical.
It's a clean old.
Covers the whole ditch. Yeah, and a couple of revolutions, and
That's an interesting room that I don't quite understand.
What is holes? Those along of the corridor have some holes. 2 holes.
yes.
That. When German took Canterbury and the vault, the French army do not set electricity. So in German, they are 1 week to.
When was this was a new repair, right?
Yes.
Yes. That's what I thought.
Oh, that dome on the top.
The dome on the top. I mean, animals does make everything better. We are better people because of animals.
Rabbits. They dig everywhere, and they figure out that it's the no more of the roof.
Oh, Roger, you may want to come down here. Oh, this is nice and cool and neat.
Oh yes, the firing steps.
Oh, you.
Yes. These are well preserved, aren't they? Considering
They are.
the ramparts.
Something about here. When you have to make all the systems, of course, you have to find place to this one place to pass all the wire. And only about between the 2 walls. These people can and want to justify the code to.
Yes. That's interesting. There was a fire, what was there? Somebody.
But we have a lot of practices. People as visit.
Well, this is really nice. I mean, the Capogne, it's brilliant. And there's one on these on either side, one of the chambers on either side. It's fantastic. Wow. They're all such brilliant condition.
I know, it's brilliant.
Because when you go into many forts, the steps are worn in the middle, aren't they? And here they're not. Oh, this is amazing.
The room in the center here.
Right here.
Powder magazine, or what is this?
Maybe.
They look like firing ports, but not from this decade.
It's hard to find something. You don't have any.
No, you couldn't find them here, could you?
Before the war. Just during and after. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what was each shape.
I mean, it would seem like a bad idea to have a powder magazine because it's the most forward building. Yeah, but you had electricity in here at some point.
Installed that.
World War I.
Yeah. Very quickly, in 2 years. So they did not spend time squaring the stones, squaring the courses, and that's why even the joining parts are uneven. But it must have taken a bit of work to put together a lot of uneven stones to make the arch serial.
So how did he explain this few stones that were cut? So actually there was quite a lot of electricity in here, World War I.
With bare wires, bare copper wires.
Yeah. Well, it's not like they're going to set the stone on fire.
No.
It's not like anything's going to burn down inside the fort.
No, but this is very impressive, the Caponia.
Yeah.
When you see what's left outside, this is amazing.
Yeah, that really is that's what makes it interesting.
And
They found a legionary's armor here.
Something happens like that.
The shelter, un abri. Pendant les bombardements.
These two parts don't belong together.
Yeah, this is the rear trail.
Yeah, that is, but I'm talking about that barrel and this.
The barrel doesn't go together.
There were the chassis? No.
Yeah, look, they've welded those triangular plates on it to put it in here. It's a very interesting gun, but I have no idea what it is. Looks like there was what do we call it? A muzzle brake.
Do you think this is a museum setup? Do you think somebody Frankensteined this in World War I?
No, it's not World War One. This is World War II plan.
It is, isn't it? Well, then the question is, did somebody Frankenstein this in World War II? Or did they...
I think there was probably an association which got lots of bits together and decided to make a little display.
Yeah, because they...
It always amazes me when they call this a GPF 155. This is GPF, Grand Puissance Filou.
Yeah, the transport mount.
Yeah.
But yeah, this barrel is not...
No, the whole
chassis has... the chassis is, 17 to 23. It's a number 1913. But I don't see anything on the back.
155 GPF model 1917. These are the guns that the Americans grabbed, most of them, GPFs, and they love them.
No, I don't see. I mean, it's sitting on the elevation slide is sitting on the spring. It's literally sitting on it. So certainly this is a Frankenstein concoction.
Yes.
A Franken gun. Canon B3 EV2. And what does that mean?
A well-maintained cannon is worth 2.
Très bien.
That is
wait, here we go. Maneuver d'exception. Well, this is French plate. Well, that doesn't tell me what it is. It's just
that's a French tank gun then. It's out of an AMX-30 or something, isn't it? It's probably a 90 or 100, I would say.
What's this here? 105.
It's a 105.
1005 from 1970. Wow.
Yeah.
1970?
It's a tank gun.
It's a new tank gun. And the paint is running down the breech, so since it was painted, it was never fired. You barbarian Frenchman.
Well, like they said of the MAS 36 in the adverts, brand new condition, never fired, only dropped once. That's so cruel.
It's a good old joke.
This really was one of the last evolutions of fortresses that entered an age it was not prepared for. To see this stone fortress having held up against bombardment, artillery, some of the most modern weaponry of the time, and still, practically be standing, it is a very interesting testament to the war and to the time of constructions of these things. But this is a place where men lived and died, and many of them still remain underneath earth that are strewn with shells that are still lying here. I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel, liking, follows, and maybe even join me on Patreon to help out. I am just a guy, a historian, traveling around all these historic places in Europe on my own dime, trying to bring them to you.